time for book club.
Welcome, lovely listeners, to this evening's edition of Book Club. It is January the 12th, 2023. In this session, we'll be reading through the Gripisspa, Gripir's Prophecy to Sigurd. And everyone knows their parts, so let's go ahead and just launch into this. Let's go ahead and have the king narrator start out with the opening there, the first poem about Sigurd.
The first poem about Sigurd is Gripisspa, Gripir's Prophecies, in which Sigurd's future is foretold to him by his uncle Gripir. Modern readers should be warned that the medieval attitude towards spoilers was more accepting than that of modern audiences. Much of the action of Sigurd's later life, as related in the following poems, is revealed here. The Gripisspa. Gripir was the brother of Hjordis, Sigurd's mother. They were the children of Eylimi. Gripir was a wiser ruler than all others, and he could see the future. Sigurd rode to Gripir's hall alone. Sigurd was easy to recognize. He met a man named Geitir outside the hall and spoke with him. Sigurd greeted him and said,
Who is it who lives in this place? What name do men give to their king here?
Geitir said, Gripir is the name of the leader of men who rules this strong land and all its legions.
Sigurd said, Is the wise king home right now? Do you think he will talk to me? I'm a stranger who wants to speak with him. I must meet with Gripir soon.
Geitir said, but the noble king will ask me what the name of this stranger is who wants to talk to him.
I am called Sigurd, son of Sigmund and Hjordis, was my mother. When Geitir went to Gripir and said, A stranger has come here, he is an impressive man to look at, and my lord, he wants to talk to you. The great king left his hall and greeted his visitor well. Welcome, Sigurd. I wish you'd come earlier. Geitir, take care of Sigurd's horse, Grani. There was much talking, there was much speaking, when those two wise men had their meeting. Sigurd said, Tell me, if you know my uncle, what do you see of my fate?
Gripir said, You will become the most famous man beneath the sun, most honored of all kings. You will share your gold, show your courage. You will be a handsome man and a master of words.
Tell me more. I want to know, wise king, if you know it. What will be my first journey after I have left your home here?
Warrior, first you will go avenge your father and get compensation for the suffering of your kin. You will kill the hard, brave sons of Hunding and have a victory.
Tell me now, king. I, your nephew, want to hear the truth when we talk together. Do you see excellent deeds in my future to boast about? Deeds that will be called the best beneath the heavens.
You alone will kill the shining serpent, the greedy worm who lies in Gineth death. You will kill both brothers, Rajin and Fenir. I do not lie.
I'll have plenty of gold if I go to battle against worthy foes, as you clearly foresee. Let your mind wander and see yet further what sort of fate is waiting for me.
You will find Fenir's treasure. You will seize all that gold. You will put that gold on Granny's back, then ride to the hall of great King Gutki.
I hope that you will say even more than this, my wise, accomplished uncle. When I have visited Gyoki and left his home, what sort of fate will be waiting for me?
A beautiful princess, dressed in armor, sleeps on a mountain after the death of Hagi. You will free her with your sharp blade. You will cut her armor with the sword that killed Fenrir.
I'll break her armor and the girl will speak when she wakes from her sleep. But then, what will this wise girl say? Will she say something useful to me?
She will teach you useful runes, everything that people most desire to know. She'll teach you to speak in every language and how to heal the suffering. Live well, King.
That meeting will end, I'll have learned much, and I'll ride further along my way. Let your mind wander and see yet further what sort of fate will be waiting for me.
You will come to Hamir's halls. You'll be a happy guest of that brave king's. It's all told, Sigurd. Everything I wanted to say. Please don't ask me anything further.
Now your words cause me worry, for I think that you, wise king, see yet further. You know there is some great misfortune in store for me, and you don't want to tell it.
It was easy to see how your life would be in your blooming youth. But I am not a real wise man, nor much a prophet. I've forgotten what I knew.
I know of no one in the world who knows better how to see the future. Don't conceal it, even if it's terrible to hear, even if I'll meet misfortune on my life's path.
Your life's path is not written in mockery. Let that at least stand out in your memory. As long as humans live on this earth, the name of famous Sigurd will live among them.
I think it's wrong for me to part from you, my wise uncle, in this way. Without hearing more, my fate will go as it must, no matter what, but show me how it will go, my honored uncle, if you will.
Now, Sigurd, my nephew, I will tell you the whole truth, since you, young hero, want to force me into it. First, I'll say something which you know is no lie. Your final day is appointed. Death is coming.
I don't want to make you angry. I only want to get your good advice. I have to know for certain what awaits, even if it's evil. I want to know what fate has in store for me.
There is a beautiful woman who is living at Himir's, and her name will be remembered as Brynhild. She is the daughter of Bathiel, but the brave King Hymir fosters that hard-hearted girl.
So what does it matter if there's a beautiful woman growing up at Hymir's place? Now I need you to delve deeper, for I think that you have foreseen all of my fate.
That beautiful woman who is growing up at Himir's will deprive you of all your happiness. She will make you sleepless. She will make you senseless. She'll pay attention to nothing unless you're with that girl. You'll pay attention to nothing unless you're with that girl.
Tell me, Gripir, what can I do to find some medicine to heal this illness? Will this beautiful girl will this beautiful girl I intend to marry be given to me in marriage?
The two of you will swear oaths to one another, but will keep few of them. You will be a guest at Guki's one night, and then you will forget Brynhild, daughter of Bathili.
But Gripir, how will this happen to me? Am I made with such a weak mind? Will I betray her when she has captured my whole heart?
Others will trick you into this treachery. You will be trapped by Queen Grimhild. You will ask for her hand and her bright-haired daughter. She will fool you into it.
So then I will be brother-in-law of great Gunnar, married to Guthrun. It seems this would be a very good marriage, if I didn't suspect there's more bad to come.
Grimhild will terribly deceive you. She will ask you to court Brynhild for the bride of Gunnar, that king of the Goths, and you will promise to go upon that journey.
Clearly I can see that pain awaits me, and this is the worst that I must court the famous woman I love most of all to be the fair bride of another man.
You will swear many oaths, you and Gunnar, together with Hogni. You and Gunnar will magically trade appearances on the journey. I am not lying.
What will that gain me? Why will we two change appearances on this journey? Some other evil must follow. All this other evil. Tell me more of it, appear.
You will look like Gunnar. You will act as if you were Gunnar, but you'll have your own mind and your own courage. You will woo Brynhild, foster daughter of Hamir, for Gunnar, and nothing will prevent it.
I think the worst part is that people will call me an evildoer when they hear of this. I do not wish to woo the princess, the best woman I know, with trickery.
You will sleep next to the young woman, but only as if she had been your mother. Because of this, for a long time, people on this earth will speak the famed name of Sigurd.
Will the famous King Gunnar marry this girl, even after the wise princess has slept next to me for 3 nights? Answer me, Gripir.
2 bridegrooms, you and Gunnar, will toast your wedding in Gulk's hall on the same day. You'll exchange appearances again when you come home and have the same souls as before.
Will my brother-in-law and I stay in good friendship? Tell me, Gripir, will Gunnar later rejoice for these weddings? Or will I?
You'll remember your oaths, and you will be silent. You will live happily with your wife Guthrun, but Brynhild will learn about the deception, and she will plot her revenge on you.
And what repayment will Brynhild accept from me and the others who deceived her? All she'll have from me are the oaths I swore and later broke, and her unhappy fortune.
She will tell Gunnar that you were not true to him. She will tell Gunnar, son of Gutki, that he was wrong to place his trust in you.
What is this, Gripir? Tell me honestly, will her story be true? Is it true I'll be faithless, or will the famous woman be telling lies about what she and I did? Tell me, Gripir.
Because of her anger, the girl will lie about you. She'll cause you this heartbreak, even though you were not the cause. The princess will know she was won through treachery.
Will Gunnar be fooled by her? Will Gothorn be fooled? And Hogni too? Will my brothers-in-law redden their swords in my flesh? Tell me, Gripir.
Pain will go to Guthrun's heart when her brothers kill you. She will never be happy. She will never love again. It will all be Grimhild's fault. But Sigurd, leader of warriors, there is one comfort in your fate. A better man will never walk upon the earth beneath the sun than you, Sigurd said.
I part from you in friendship. My fate will be what it will. You have done what I asked you to do, and I think you would have happily told me I would have a better fate if that had been my true destiny.
There's quite a bit to unpack in that one, isn't there?
Does it sound familiar to anybody? Because it does to me, but in a different way. Because
There's a couple different stories that this parallels in the sagas and such. Excuse me.
which one's Beast?
Well, I could have told you if you hadn't just asked. I had that in my brain because I was just thinking about them.
The Nibelungen lead, and the Volsung saga.
There we go. Yep, Volsung was the one that popped up first. Yep. It's a not uncommon tale through the stories of the Old Norse?
For me, it seemed a lot to parallel the prophecy of Ymir. Is that one, right? His prophecy about Ragnarok, but in a different way, because it's not the end of the world, but Odin was asking about his fate and all the different things that would happen to him and how he would die and how he would meet his fate and who was going to do it and how and why and all of the above. And this person's doing the same thing. And in the knowledge of their doom, they seal it.
Right.
Same as Odin did. You would think they would learn from that. And that's where it
How do you learn from a thing like that, though? I mean, you won't ever know if something is going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy until it does. It could just be a prophecy that you then, avert.
True. But they knew that all the other bad things beyond that, not beyond death, but before preceding death that were foretold happened. And a lot of it is because he was told that it was going to, and so it did.
Now, we have, in a general sense, we have a warning about this earlier, if you remember back when we were reading the Havamal.
Mm-hmm.
Stanza 55 was the middling wise every man should be, beware of being too wise, for wise man's heart is seldom happy if too great the wisdom he won.
Mm-hmm.
Or in our version, knowing more than you need to know leads to unhappiness.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of correlation here, if you look at the general sense of it, between Odin speaking with the Cirrus and these two talking. Here's enough to give you the information to make you happy. Run along now and play. Everything's good. But no, you know more. No, don't ask me more. Just go. I've told you the happy parts. Go on. Go play now. No. Tell me more. I want to know more. No, you really don't want to know more. Trust me. Just take it what it is and go. But they kept pushing, and eventually the truth had to come out, and they didn't like the answers that they got.
Mm-hmm. I also made notes over here. The beautiful princess dressed in armor sleeps on the mountain after the death of Helgi. Previous poem, not the immediate previous, obviously, but the one in last book club. When Helgi dies, she goes to sleep in the tomb. I'm assuming that that's her. And would she not be dead from being in the tomb all that time? And is she talking to him like a zombie? Or is she talking to him like a spirit? Or how is that? And she's teaching him of the runes and different languages and stuff. That parallels to Odin on Yggdrasil learning the runes and stuff. And so that ties into a whole other thing.
Different person.
Honestly, to me, when I heard of the person sleeping in the armor, when I heard that part, I instantly thought of Walt Disney's Sleeping Beauty.
Right? That's the notes. It was Sansa 16, and that's notes I put down here on the side as well. The correlation between her and Sleeping Beauty. You've also got the correlation between her and Lady of the Lake in the Celtic mythology. There's several different mythos out there that have the common story of go find this sleeping beauty and wake her magically from her sleep. In this situation, it's cutting off the armor. And she will awake and grant you boons and prizes and wisdom and knowledge and love and all these great things. It's a common thread through many different stories across many different cultures. It is not the wife that you're thinking of. It's a different lady. This one, the wife that you're thinking of went and laid in her husband's burial mound for the night and then ended up meeting with her husband. The next day she rode out. She didn't stay in the burial mound. This is another.
There's another one I'm thinking of, and I have this book of names and significant things that they did. It came with a tarot deck that I no longer have, and now I'm trying to... Is it her? Is it her? Maybe. It might be her. I'm trying to look for the one lady, and it has her picture or a representation of it.
Are you
Sorry,
thinking Sigrifa?
Is it who?
Are you thinking Sigrifa, which is another name for Brynhild?
No.
Okay.
I know that's not the name. It begins with an S, but I don't remember what it is. I apologize, people of YouTube, rabbit holes and such. Might be. Oh, I'm wrong. It's not that. It's not S. But there are two. There's light and dark. There's Alfred and Amran. Those two people. Do those names sound familiar to you, Beast? You're our big name person. You get paid the big bucks.
They do, but I couldn't tell you why at the moment.
Okay. I am like double checking myself and making sure that that is the person who I was thinking. So far it is. Okay. So Amran is a dark. It says in this book here, it's the Bifrost, a guide to the Gadrasil. It came with a tarot deck that I had once upon a time, that my daughter destroyed because she's a toddler. Anyway, Amrun, Amrun, however you pronounce that name. Insert correct word here. Is a dark elf knowledgeable in the dark elf runes, also known as moon runes. Amrun may have had a cult following in Sweden and has been an entity mostly of folklore. Moon runes are illegible to most, a system of writing runes similar to the Plutarch alphabet, and can indicate the influence of spears pointed at the seeker, all that good other stuff. And Alfred is a queen of Alfheimer. Her name means the rune of the elves, the symbol of the light elves, according to folklore. She is said to live in an area on the border of Norway and Sweden in the summers, but resides in Asgard for the winters, so she travels between Midgard and Asgard, an indicator that she is a goddess close to the heart of the common man. And she is said to know all runes and to be a master of runic language and magical staffs. And that's where my brain went. I could be wrong, but that's where my brain went.
It's an interesting take on it.
I wondered if it was either of those two ladies.
In this story, it doesn't name a name. It just says the lady who's sleeping. So at this point, with the threat of spoilers, we don't know the right answer. There will be more said on this later in later book clubs as we read through the rest of the stories. One of the ones I wanted to touch base on real quick was stanza 11. You alone will kill the shining serpent, the greedy worm who lives in Gnithaith. You'll kill both brothers, Regan and Fafnir. I do not lie. Now, how many of you know the story of Sigurd and Fafnir? We got one hand raised. This is foreshadowing and spoilers for the battle between Sigurd and Fafnir, which is one of my favorites. Personally, I love that story itself. It's the epitome of the knight in shining armor going into the dragon's lair and slaying him to take the hoard and save the people and such. It's a really fun story. It's actually one of my favorite coffee mugs. I etched with Sigurd and Fafnir fighting each other. Sigurd slaying the dragon. It is also the basis for St. George and the Dragon in the Christian beliefs. One of the Christian tales of St. George and the Dragon is based off of this one here. So it's fun. In stanza 23, Gripir says, "Your life's path is not written in mockery. Let that at least stand out in your memory. As long as humans live on this earth, the name of famous Sigurd will live among them." These stories were written thousands of years ago, and here we are today in 2023 still talking about Sigurd.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes to show that, yes, his name will live on as long as we continue to tell the stories.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it
Continues.
is everything.
I was saying as long as opera continues, because you've got Wagner
Right.
writing his great ring cycle on this whole story,
Right.
too.
Wait, there's someone writing an opera about it? What?
Wagner's ring cycle. The
60s, 1850s? When did he write those?
Ride of the Valkyries and all that.
Dun 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 dun. You know this, Mooney.
I do. I knew that. I didn't know that that's what it was called. I didn't pay attention in that class. I had a whole class.
Buddy, Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries is actually why modern depictions of Vikings with horned helmets exist.
Yes, I remember reading that because I took a music appreciation class not too long ago in college, and we had a whole section on that, and that was a question on the test: is where did Vikings wearing horned helmets? Where did that depiction come from? And that was the answer. That I remember, but
do you know why?
I do not remember the why.
The why is because it was generally depicted at the time for helmets to have wings on them instead of horns. And Wagner thought that the wings would look too, proper word, not masculine enough. He thought having the wings on the helmets would be too feminine, I'm working very hard on changing my everyday vocabulary to fit modern society. I'm old, I'm white, I'm straight. There's things that I have always said that I have learned are not to be said anymore. So there's still some things I catch myself wanting to say that just because it's what we always said, but it's not the right thing to say anymore. But I guess I think living at Wagner thought it would be too feminine to have big feathers, wings on the helmets. So he looked around and saw a herd of cattle sitting outside and saw their big horns and said, that looks a lot more masculine. So he had the set designers go through and remove all the feathers and wings off of the helmets and replace them with horns. And that's why Vikings today have horns on their helmets.
Nice. I actually get to go watch an opera this weekend. I get to go watch The Marriage of Figaro Sunday with a couple friends of mine. I'm happy about it.
Squirrel. Like fun.
Mm-hmm.
That was a happy little rabbit trail. So I know you like your rabbit trail. But yeah, that's what I've got for notes on this one. A lot of this, again, it's one of those things that a lot of the questions that we have will be addressed and answered later on in book clubs to come as we read through the various stories. If you remember the opening of this one, it mentioned straight out that modern readers should be warned that the medieval attitude towards spoilers was much more accepting than that of modern audiences. Much of the actions of Sigurd's later life, as related in following poems, is revealed here. A straight out river song from Doctor Who. Spoilers. We'll dive into a bunch of these more as we progress through book club, which is yet another reason, fine listeners on YouTube, to tune in every week and follow along with us as we do these wonderful journeys.
Yes. And even though he said that there are spoilers here that are telling us about later poems that will be read at some point or another that we'll find out later in the lore, and that, okay, you have these questions now, okay, it's going to be answered later. Don't let that stop your question. Write your question down somewhere, and then when you find the answer, make sure you look at it because it stood out to you and stuff. So, and write your theories and stuff down somewhere and keep them in mind before you read it, because that helps the thought process of things. That's how we learn.
Right. I'll grab it here real quick. You'll get a kick out of this, Tony. I have my little... Come here. Turn on the camera. There we go. I have my little notebook that I keep in my pocket. As I'm reading and studying and learning, I take notes on things and write down questions, because a lot of the lore and such that we go through, unfortunately, does just this. It talks about, and in next week's episode, and then I'll think of the question now, and then next week I'll forget it. So I write it down in my little book here, and as I'm going through reading the different sagas and such, I'll refer back to my book and write down the answer to the question. And it's always great that way, because a year from now, as I'm going back through, I'll read it and go, oh yeah, huh, and remind myself of the different things that I'd asked. So it's kind of fun that way.
Mm-hmm. And it's also something to look back on whenever you get to be like Beast and you've done it for longer than I've been alive. And to look back on the questions that you had when you first started, and then look at what the answer that you have now versus the answer you may or may not have had then, or a question like him you may have forgotten about.
Right.
And
there are things every day that I learn new, even today. Things that I've known this was the way of it. I've known this equaled that plus this, and that's just the way it was. And then through my further research, as I've grown and learned more, I'll find that obscure text somewhere that shows that, no, that's not what it was. This is what it actually is. Holy crap, I was wrong on that. Let me revise my notes and go back and, especially with me keeping track of the references where I found this back then, I'll go back to the original reference and read it and go, okay, I see how I got that. Here's this other reference to work in with it. And the two don't cancel each other out usually. It just refines the answer more. To where I was partially right to begin with, but now I'm more right because I have the further knowledge with what we've done. Azra, I think you and I think you're about the only one old enough here to remember Walter Cronkite and the rest of the story.
Yep.
It's the same thing. I'll know the story to begin with, and then years later down the road, I'll learn the rest of the story. And it oftentimes changes what was originally my thoughts. And that is something I've come to learn over the years. At the beginning was difficult for me because I am Beast. I am 6'4" man of man. I am right, damn it. And as I've grown and learned more, there's been several occasions where I've had to go back and say, you know, I might not have been quite as right as I thought I was because of this. Look at this. This shows that I was wrong. I'm sorry, but now there's more information. We grow from there. So it's fun, the humility that you were taught as you delve more and more into the lore.
mm-hmm.
That's why I'm thankful for people like Matt, who knows more than I have forgotten, or has forgotten more than I will ever know.
So I'm going back over some. Go ahead.
Oh, I said I know nothing.
Mhm.
In stanza 51, it was saying how it's going to be Grimhild's fault. Okay, the whole thing was about Gunnar and Sigurd. How did it end up being Grimhild's fault? Is he the
And
one that told her she was tricked? Or something?
You'll find that out in the future story.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
will all be Grimhild's fault. Right.
Okay. See, people of YouTube, notes for later. How is it his fault? He's not in it. He ain't got a dog in the race nowhere. How? But he was in the last one, I think, somewhere. And he does weird stuff. So.
Now, Grimhild is discussed in this one. If you look further back a bit, Grimhild is the one that he is marrying.
Ah, yes.
No, he's marrying Gunnar.
Or marrying Gunnar.
Right.
Trapped by Queen Grimhild.
Yes.
Yeah. As for the hand of her bright-haired daughter, she will fool you into it.
Yeah. So in that, maybe it is her fault. But even then, based on the time, place, etc., and etc. of things in everything of the story, then it still doesn't make sense that it is their fault, her fault, their fault. It might be her husband because he would also be called Grimhild because she takes his name and all that good stuff. Anyway, so, but if they're blaming the queen because she trapped him and so he married the daughter to get out of being trapped, then even by all of their standards and their ways of thinking of that time period, it would still be his fault that he didn't fight his way out of that. He would be looked at as, and people of YouTube, please don't cancel me. This is not going to sound fun, but again, this is not placed in modern times. They're going to be like, how did you, big, strong man, not get away from a small, weakly woman? That would be the thought process of the time period. So it still doesn't make sense. But again, we'll find out later. But thought process didn't stop. And if they're talking about her husband, then that's a different story. And we'll find out later.
They're not.
Yeah.
Okay. So, organizing things here a bit. 35. Grimhild will terribly deceive you. She will ask you to court Brynhild for the bride of Gunnar, that king of the Goths, and you will promise to go upon that journey. You'll swear many oaths, you and Gunnar, together with Hogni. You and Gunnar will magically trade appearances on the journey. I'm not lying. You will look like Gunnar. You will act as if you were Gunnar, but you'll have your own mind and your own courage. You will Brunhild, foster daughter of Heimir, for Gunnar, and nothing will prevent it. You'll sleep next to the young woman, but only as if she was your mother. Because of this, for a long time, people on this earth will speak the famous name of Sigurd. 2 bridegrooms, you and Gunnar, will toast your weddings at Guki's hall on the same day. You'll exchange appearances again when you come home and have the same souls as before. You'll remember your oaths and you'll be silent. You'll live happily with your wife Guthrun, but Brunhild will learn about the deception and she'll plot her revenge on you. What was his name? Cyrano de Bergerac. Do you recall the story of Cyrano de Bergerac? It's a French tale. There was a famous movie or a popular movie made with it with Steve Martin playing the role of Cyrano. Cyrano was hideous to look upon, had a giant nose. I mean, even by Italian standards, had a huge nose. Had the jock, for lack of a better term, the meathead jock, standing outside the girl's window. Cyrano would whisper to him what to say. He would repeat it loud to the girl up on the balcony to woo her, and ended up winning her hand, even though everything that he said was Cyrano whispering in the background. Similar situation like this. They took and swapped appearances, did a body swap, to where it looked like Gunnar. Gunnar standing there telling Brynhild how beautiful she is, how smart she is, the glistening of her skin, the color of her hair. You're so pretty. I love you so much. But it wasn't Gunnar doing this. It was Sigurd that was doing this. And it worked. And Brunhild married who she thought was Gunnar. That night, Gunnar and Sigurd swapped back, and Sigurd went home to his actual wife. That's when she found out, when Brynhild found out that she'd been duped and she wasn't marrying the extravagantly well-spoken, well-mannered man that she thought she was. She was stuck with this meathead instead, and that kind of pissed her off. So she went through and started telling lies and doing the whole jaded ex-girlfriend kind of thing, posting on the Instagrams about, oh my God, I can't believe he did this, and making up a whole bunch of other stuff about him that wasn't quite true to turn the tide of popular opinion against him. And that was her revenge that they were discussing. Does that make sense now?
It does. A little bit.
Any other questions?
I don't have any.
We're going to go ahead and call this book club to a close. Good evening, everyone, and see you next week.